Hobby Quick Hits, delivering that breaking hobby news directly to your earlobes. You want to know those hot drops from the card shop? We've got you covered. With your host, John Newman.
Welcome to episode 209 of Hobby Quick Hits. Just got back from the National. This episode will be a little bit different. It will be a national recap, share some things I've seen on the show floor. We're not going to cover any news or news releases like we would do on a normal episode of Hobby Quick Hits, just to cut out that time and maybe talk a little bit more about the National. So let's get right into it, truth be told. Came in on Wednesday, stayed through Sunday. Wednesday, the plan was to go to the White Sox-Phillies game at Rate Field, and then check into the hotel, and then go to the show for when it opens at 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And so I got there early, so I went to the show, parked in the circle there, ran in, got my media credential, came out, and I had some time to kill before the 1:10 start for the Sox game. So I couldn't check in early, but I went to the hotel just to see if I could, by any chance, find out where it was, find out how close to the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center it was, and all that fun stuff. And good thing I went, because the nice lady at the front counter, very apologetic, said I have a letter from the general manager. We made a mistake, not something you want to hear. And she said, we overbooked the hotel for tonight. You have to go to another hotel. We've taken care of everything. You're good there. And then you come back tomorrow for your regular stay. There's some perks. She validated all my parking, dinner. So it was their mistake, and they kind of very apologetic and gave me some perks to make up for it. So at that point, I checked out where the other hotel was, and actually was able to check in a little bit early there before the game. Went to the game, again, supposed to be 1:10 start, 3 hour and 45-minute rain delay, and yes, I stuck it out. And because I stuck it out, not a lot of people at the White Sox game, and then you add in an almost 4-hour rain delay, less people at the White Sox game. And the ushers, I was in the third tier. The ushers are like, hey, everybody, you can go down to the front as close as you want, open season. So I got a seat 10 rows from the field. Excellent game. The White Sox poured it on and won over the Phillies. My fantasy guy, Colson Montgomery, with a home run. By the time, because of the rain delay and what time the game ended, the show was over. So I did not get to the show on Wednesday. I went back to the hotel, took a shower, watched a little TV, and went to bed to spend the whole day Thursday at the show. Thursday had two main stages, one for Hobby Hotline, went very well, and one for Sports Card Nation. And for the first time of doing these, and I'm very privileged and honored to get to do them, for the first time ever, they were back-to-back. So Hobby Hotline was at noon, and Sports Card Nation was at 1 o'clock. And on Sports Card Nation, I had Southern Collector 14, Tony Liebrick, and TJ is Online, Tony DiMarzio, on stage. And we talked a lot about vintage. It was a heavy vintage discussion, very fun. Both hours for that matter, flew by. So that was Thursday. Friday was my first full day, really, with nothing scheduled during the show. Did some shopping there, and Friday was the PSA registry party. Well done by PSA. They introduced Scott Hansen, Syracuse University former player, but more known for being the host of NFL Red Zone on the NFL Network. He was the MC. He also let out of the bag that ESPN had bought NFL Network and the Red Zone. So he said he wasn't really supposed to. It's now a major sports. He gave out some of the PSA registry awards. And then he said he had a special guest to bring out. And he started rattling off some NFL stats, which sounded familiar to me. And then he said, this gentleman I'm about to bring out has the most touchdowns in NFL history. And I knew before he even said the name, we were about to see Jerry Rice right in front of us. And sure enough, Jerry Rice came out. They did a sort of pseudo interview and cut it up a little bit. We had 3 packs that we were given to start the night and told not to open them. And before Rice came out, they said we could open the first 2. And then there was an 89 score pack. They said save and do not open. And Rice came out, did his thing. They said, all right, let's everybody open the 89 score pack. And of course, you're hoping for Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, Troy Aikman. And I pulled a Jerry Rice base card. Pretty cool since he was standing pretty much in front of me on stage. And then they announced anyone that had pulled a Rice card, base card, out of that 89 score pack would get a photo op with the GOAT himself. And so that was very cool. Got to spend a couple minutes with Jerry Rice. Gave me a cool handshake, a regular handshake, and then he did it where you grab sort of the fingertips and said some nice pleasantries. And again, got some photos. I posted those on social media. So that was a cool brush with greatness there. So that was Friday. Saturday was, again, a full day. And then we had our hobby hotline dinner at Harry Carey's, which is becoming tradition now when the National is in Chicago. I had a great dinner with folks there. I want to mention, too, on Thursday, the YouTube content creator dinner. Many have heard we got kicked out of the lobby of the hotel was at. Pretty bogus. But we made the best of it. Not Mike Moynihan's fault. Really, I mean, it is what it is. Had a Gestapo sort of feeling like, get out of here, you can't be here. So we basically went on the front lawn after some walking back and forth, and a couple other spots didn't pan out. And had a great time talking to collectors, met some new folks, talked to some old folks, ate some pizza, way too much pizza, and had a great night. Think I left at 10 o'clock. I don't know, did anyone else have trouble in that if you parked a car in that parking lot, finding your car? It was tough. Each day I had trouble, even though I would try to remember, what level, 2D, 3D, 4C, whatever it was. But that first day, Thursday, I spent 45 minutes trying to find my rental car. Pressing key fob to unlock it, lock it, the alarm, not hearing anything. Get my hopes up when I press it and there's someone else doing the same thing at the same time, and it wasn't mine. Then I thought I was where I parked it, the car's not there. I'm thinking, did it get towed? Did I park it in the wrong spot? Did it get stolen? Did I leave the lights on and the battery's dead? So that's why it's not responding to the key fob. All these scenarios, very nervous and worried. Finally found it after 45 minutes. So got late back to my original first hotel, which I was in a sense checking in for the first time. So got there about after that, probably 10:30. Was a little worried that being there so late would be a problem, but no problem. So Saturday, very busy. Actually, every day was pretty steady. As we all know, the Saturday at the National is the busy day. And for the first time ever, I was able to go for a full day Sunday. I got a late flight back to Syracuse and was able to stay pretty much for the hotel Sunday. Bought a more cheaper cards on Sunday, some dollar box stuff, which I didn't look through a lot of boxes the first 3 days that I was there. Some cards I picked up, I'm not going to name them all, too many, but some cards of significance. The big one was the Jimmy Fox 1933 Gaudy. Got that in an SGC 3. Got it from a gentleman you may know or have heard of, Gordy Bonker of Bonkers Cards. And that was actually a pre-arranged before the show online deal, and I just met him there to get the Fox, which was kind of the target going into the show. Picked up a card I always wanted in a BVG slab, graded 5.5. Normally don't buy BVG slabs, but got a really good deal on this card, and it's it's sort of it's a goofy card, right? We talk about the '89 Fleer Billy Ripken. Well, it's the Star Wars equivalent of that, 1977 to be exact. The Anthony Daniels C-3PO, where he's excited to be on the Topps Traded card. Let's put it that way. Always kind of wanted to own one. Have had some come through my SGC bulk subs. I've even told the people subbing it with me, hey, when this comes back, if you want to sell it, keep me in mind. No one ever wants to sell it. Everyone wants to own a copy of that card. I bought it from a young kid. I don't know if he was running his dad's table or what. Doesn't matter. He had 3 of them in various slabs and grades, and got what I thought was the best one for a pretty good deal. A funny kid, good salesman for his age. So picked up that card. I love the 1989 Detroit Police Oscar Mayer sets. Barry's first appearance, Barry Sanders, on cardboard. I always pick those up. I try to have them in my own show inventory. Got a nice deal. Bought 4 sets. Got kind of a package combo deal, fairly cheap. So those will be, in my cases, going at the next show. And then I wanted the Ichiro Topps Traded with chrome or base, the one with pools. Saw a few, couldn't, a little bit over what I thought that I should be paying for them. So I didn't pull the trigger, but I did get some other rookies of him that were, I got one that was, I don't know if it was mispriced, but hard to believe I got it for that price. So not complaining there. And then I bought a couple Ohtani rookies. Again, those weren't being given away or anything like that, but I did get a couple deals on some graded Ohtanis, or what I felt was a fair deal to kind of bring home and kind of put away and sit on it, or as I like to say, marinate. Let's talk about some of the observations. Kudos to the traffic police in front of the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center. They were doing yeoman's work directing traffic. To wait to get in, whether the parking lot or get through, was not too bad. They were very fair with how they let one side go, then the other. It was very well done. They were yelling at people to pay attention or listen, which I thought was pretty funny. And again, good job by them being there, and whoever had them there as well. A lot of kids. I was happy to see a lot of younger kids on the show floor. A lot of families. If you went, did you notice there was a lot of families there? Mom, dad, and kids. Not used to seeing that many at a national, so that's always a good sign, right? And a couple of things I'm not fond of. A few folks with very young babies. And when I say very young, like, where you have to hold them or they have to be in a carriage. And really don't think that environment's good to have a baby in for a whole day or more. Maybe plan something where someone watches the baby, or, someone stays home. But I guess if you want to go to the show and that's your only way to go, I get it. But I just thought it was odd. I just think back to when my son was a baby. I would definitely not be bringing him to the National. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my opinion. If I'm wrong, tell me. I can take it. A lot of selling going on. Some of the booths had, selling sections of their booth. Those were always full. And, comps varied. There were some deals to be had. And then there were some tables where, things were overcompensated. And listen, truth be told, you go to the National, you should always expect there to be slightly overcomps. Or a lot of, maybe I'm justifying it, but a lot of travel expenses for these dealers, table fees. I get it. I go in knowing I'm not going to pay always comp or thicker price. Man, let me brag about something. That air condition was on point. It was cold at times. There was one time I'm like, I wish I had my card ladder hoodie. Thank you to Chris and Christina, which I left at the hotel. You still, if you were under one of them blowers, it moved your shirt, it moved your hair, and it was. I tell you what, I did not sweat in that building at all. And if anything, like I said, there was times when I was legit chilly and wish I had a hoodie. I know some people were complaining about the Wi-Fi. I didn't have any issues. I didn't use my phone a lot, so maybe I'm not the one to. But I will say this: I wear prescription Ray-Ban Wayfarer Metas. Meta and talk. The Meta Metas. Sorry, I'm recording this. It's late on Sunday night. Just got back, so I wear the Ray-Ban Metas, and all my texts get read into my ear, and it does things without me touching my phone. But it still runs on, obviously, on Wi-Fi and internet. So it did well enough to work. The times I did use my phone, had no issues looking anything up or texting somebody or calling somebody. So AC Wi-Fi was on point in my book. AC even more. That thing was blowing some serious cold air. Let's talk about some other things. I don't know. Again, parking lot. I had trouble finding my car. Maybe that's a me thing. It could very well be. It was announced Detroit won the vote for the National 2028. So if you're going to the National in 2028, you'll be headed to Detroit. That's the first national outside of Chicago in the next few years. The next two are in Chicago. I got to say, I did not really have a lot of trouble finding space in front of showcases to see people's wares. A few times they're busy, you have to wait your turn, the spot would open up, your way in there, and then move down the line. But not compared to nationals before. This seemed, I know they said they broke another record. It didn't really feel that way by how chilly it was in the building and how open the space was, and how you didn't have to fight for showcase space. I saw a lot more younger people looking at vintage cards, buying vintage cards. I think that's going to be a trend going forward. I think it's a good sign of the hobby as a vintage guy. And, so that was good to see. The National expanded. There were dealers on the second floor in another area, but man, that was poorly done. I got to give credit where credit's due, and I got to criticize when it's time to criticize. Now, I'll criticize this. Very tight quarters. If you had two collectors, both with backpacks on, parallel, looking at showcases on opposite sides, you could not get through if you were not one of them. It became a roadblock. It was tight quarters. A little warmer up there, maybe because of that. And they had a lot. It seemed like they had a lot more space to use. I don't know if that wasn't paid for, it wasn't allowed. But if they're going to expand like that, they need to have the same ample space as the other dealers. And I know there were different stipulations. I think people in the upstairs room could only get one table and things like that. So I know there was some spacing those tables out. It was hard to walk between tables. I went up there one time, and that was it. I had no interest, quite frankly, in going back. And I hope those folks that were set up and had a great national and did well. But a little bit the odds against them there with just the way the setup was. Overall, it was a great national. If you don't have fun at a national, you probably did something wrong. Had a great time. Meeting people again, and then meeting some new people. I don't wear a Sports Card Nation shirt every day, but I try to do occasionally. People came up and, said, "Hey, are you John?" And I love the show, and that was always good to hear. Sat down at the card ladder booth a couple times just to take a break or talk with somebody. Shout out to Victor. That was kind of our meeting place. Shout out to Christina and Chris and and them over there for allowing us luxury and gifting me a hoodie as well, which at some point I could have used. And not as much carpeting on the floors as past nationals, but I did something I don't always do. I alternated shoes. So I had my Jackie Robinson Nike Dunks, and I had my Kane Recovery shoes. If you don't know about Kane Recovery shoes, they're anywhere from $60 to $80. If you don't wear them every day, you just kind of wear them when you need. They are great for keeping your feet kind of out of pain and healthy. So I would alternate my shoes. One day the Dunks, one day the Canes, and seemed to work better. I didn't have the foot pain, and even now as I'm recording, no pain. But I didn't have the foot pain that my feet didn't hurt in the way that they usually happen at the National. So that's a tip, is to alternate shoes every other day if you can. I got an extra pair in my luggage and bring two pair. Some peeves, if you will. And again, I had a great national. I'm not really complaining. It's not all roses and daisies, as I like to say, right? A lot of the folks selling, right, they put their showcases, or I should say Zion cases or cases that their cards are in, on the showcases. And you really can't see what that seller has available. And there was a lot of that. So a lot of the cases get covered. There's no solution really to it unless a dealer leaves a section of his table sort of open for like a case. And there were a couple dealers that actually did that. Obviously, we had buying station, which kind of freed up the showcases he's seen. But when there wasn't the case, that showcase, you couldn't see really what was in it. And sometimes as those cards came out, it could affect the showcase to the left or the right of a potential for someone who was just shopping for cards. Minor pet peeve there. Something else that really kind of struck me. I know I'm going to sound like the grumpy Gus here, but it's something that I know I've spoken to other content creators in private about it. But I'm not shy, so I just think sometimes I feel, and not everybody. Again, my line that I like to use, right? I don't want to paint with a brush, but I think for this show, it really, to me, became apparent that some content creators are more about the content than the cards themselves, and to the point where I even question: do they collect cards, or are they just content with being a hobby celebrity? Not a celebrity. Actors, musicians, artists, people like that I consider celebrities. Even being known in the hobby does not make you a celebrity. You're not shopping at your supermarket, as they say, and someone says, "Oh, look, it's so-and-so from the hobby," right? Unless that person already knows you to begin with. So we're not, I've always said this, we might be hobby celebrities, but not celebrities. But I just think some of these folks, again, I don't know what, someone asked me, I didn't even really give a count. But I think certain ones, right, it's just more now about the content and being on screen and getting likes, clicks, than the cards anymore. And in some cases I question, like, are they even transacting with cards, or is it now became sort of just a content creator? Again, I think that percentage is small, but I think that's, I don't want to say it's an issue because it doesn't really affect you or me, but it's it's something I think about. I didn't even do on-floor interviews this year. I just wanted to kind of buy some cards, walk around. I do a lot of shows locally as a dealer, so it's not often that I go to a show not as a dealer and just can buy and walk around and not be behind it. And this year I did that. With the interviews, you usually do a voices from the floor segment. I just said, I can have whoever I want on after the show, right? Not whoever I want on, but I can have people on after the show and ask them about it. Sometimes doing those on the floor interviews, people walk by, it gets loud, it's hard to hear. A lot of times those on the floor interviews are done with people working or a dealer set up, and so their time is limited, their availability. So I didn't do them this year. Another moment I forgot to mention as we wind this episode down to keep it quick hits and true to the name. It was Chris Carlin gave me a text and said, "Hey, you're available? You want to come in the PSA studio?" Blez and was breaking with Tim Mahan from Fanatics and Ryan Hogue from PSA, and then Ken Golden later came in. They broke a box of 1980 tops, pulled one Henderson, and they broke a box of 2018 top Sapphire or Bowman Sapphire Otani's year. They did pull a superfractor, was of a base player, so nothing to write home about, but fun to watch the rip. Fun to watch those guys interact with each other, and later got to speak to Ryan Hoge should say, at the PSA registry party, and remembered seeing me in the earlier actually day. So on there, maybe you hear him on a future Sports Card Nation podcast. So that was discussed, obviously. So hopefully that comes to fruition. The hobby's very strong. You don't need me, frankly, to tell you that. I think the vintage market, I know people say, well, I don't really have trouble getting in front of vintage cases, and sometimes I have trouble getting in front of modern cases. I get it. There are probably more modern, not probably, there are more modern collectors than vintage. But I think that segment is also growing, too, as more younger learn about vintage cards, transact in vintage cards. And so I feel very hopeful and strong that the area of the hobby I love is growing and will continue to grow and continue to be viable. And same thing with the modern. Even though I don't do as much with that comparatively to vintage, I do. I did pick up stuff for resale or for my showcase and that sort of thing. So again, not that we needed the national to verify it, but the hobby was strong. I wasn't on the line, but I want to speak to it. Seemed like that general admission line was very long each day. As I walked in, I always felt sort of guilty that I didn't have to wait on that line, but sorry, not sorry. But I saw those folks. Hopefully, I didn't stick around to see how fast to inside the national, but hopefully it moved quick for those folks. And so, that's it, right? That's a wrap. 2025 Nationals in the books. 2026, you're on the clock. It's in Chicago again at 7, as that becomes the midpoint of the United States and the central location for the National. And apparently, many of the dealers' favorite spots to set up shop. So looks like Chicago will have more national than others going forward, and I get it. For me, it's a little tougher because I can't drive it being 14 hours and cost me a little bit more money and expenses to get here. But it is what it is. I've done shows where I tell you how I save up for the show and that's so. God willing, I will continue to at what I call the Super Bowl of the hobby. So, again, thank you to everyone out there listening. Thank you to everyone at the show that made it a great and fun show. If I missed anyone in my recap here, it was completely unintentional, and my apologies. So, with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode a little bit different. No news, no new release schedule. We'll get back to our normal hobby quick hits in a couple weeks, and maybe some other news about some other content involved. Nothing to report officially. So with that being said, I bid you adieu. Hope it is well in your neck of woods, and we'll see you next time.